My wife and I had a bad and stupid habit of not locking the door behind us when we got home. When you leave for work in the morning, you find that you slept all night with the door unlocked. You start fighting over who went in last and who's more of a hustler. Once the front door opened at night from a strong draft and started to slam, we were pretty scared that time, but the habit still didn't go anywhere. But then something happened that made us permanently accustomed to locking the door. And heck, I'm seriously considering the idea of an actual deadbolt. My house is my fortress. And what's the use of walls if the gates are open? That time I didn't sleep for a long time. Suddenly I decided to check the front door. I was too lazy to get up, but the urge was compulsive and irresistible. I wandered into the hallway, tried pushing the door, and sure enough, it wasn't locked again. I turned the top key 4 turns, and for some reason did the same with the second, bottom key, which we never used at all. Then I had just taken 2 steps toward the room when I heard unusual noises outside the door. It felt like someone was running their palms over the door on the other side, groping it, as if a blind man had run into an obstacle and was trying to figure out what it was. Though startled by the surprise, I turned around with the intention of at least looking through the peephole. I got close to the door and noticed that the handle began to turn up and down as if trying to open the door. Then there was a strange, non-rhythmic knocking sound. I was suddenly cold. My heart ached not fear or horror, but some black longing, some murky, incomprehensible anxiety crept into my soul. I did not want to look through the peephole. Quietly, I went to my room. My wife woke up and was about to say something. I asked her to be quiet. She immediately realized that something was wrong. Her eyes rounded. I must say that I have one device that I almost never use, namely, a video camera that looks at the site and is connected to a computer. It was brought as a gift from my brother, who worked at the time in the office, engaged in the installation of video surveillance systems. We looked at it, played with it a couple times, and forgot about the camera. Now I remember it. I don't know what trait of human character makes us look into the eyes of video. So I sat down to the computer and ran the image of the site. What was that? I don't know, but I saw it and my wife saw it. Something wrapped in some dark rags, unnaturally bending and wiggling, wandered around the site, scratching at the doors, pulling the handles, falling down and listening to the sounds in the apartments, looking into the peepholes. The creature's head was also wrapped in rags, with dark hands sticking out of the rags, long, narrow with unnaturally long, 2 to 2.5 times longer than usual fingers. Several more times something came to my door and huddled against it for a long time. My heart seemed to stop. My wife's tears flowed, and she bit the edge of the sheet to keep from making a sound. Then days crawled away. An early June dawn glimmered outside. If we lived in the country, that would probably be the first rooster. After another hour, we came to our senses. I wish my wife had seen it. She is still recovering, and I can see she is still very scared. Yesterday, she asked me to change the apartment. Well, it's okay. It's rented anyway, and I don't feel right here anymore. I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't locked the door. Would we have been found with our insides ripped open and blood dripping down the walls? Or, as they do in horror movies, huddled in a corner with our faces twisted in mortal terror and our hearts stopped? Or does this evil crawl into the soul and the person with glazed eyes goes to the kitchen for a kitchen knife or takes a step out the window? I don't know. I don't want to know. Close the doors. Take care of yourselves. Peace be with you. One Saturday night, I was playing on the computer late into the night. When I finally came out of the game, the clock read 2 minutes to 3. Glad that I didn't have to get up early, I started to get ready for bed. It was late fall, and the winds were very cold. Before I went to bed, I decided to lock the balcony door so that I wouldn't freeze in the morning. I went to the balcony and looked outside. It was dark and very quiet, which of course is normal for a bedroom neighborhood at this time of day. Only a few streetlights illuminated the roadway. As I closed the door and turned the lock knob, I was about to turn out the light, but suddenly I noticed some movement in the street. A dark figure had detached itself from one of the trees on the side of the road. It must have been there before, leaning against the tree, but I had not noticed it before because of its immobility. The shape of the figure was that of a man, but I could not see his face in the darkness. He straightened up and turned his head in my direction. He seemed to be looking straight at me. It made me feel creepy, and I immediately turned around, heading for the light switch. I didn't understand my own excitement. Who would want to wander down the street at night? And I live on the 5th floor. But the feeling of unease still lingered, and after taking a few steps, I looked back to get another look from the balcony. He was on the balcony. He stood motionless and looked at me with a blank stare. I froze too, unable to move or scream, and awaited his next move with dread. But when he tilted his head and raised his upper lip in a blood-curdling grin, keeping his glazed eyes fixed on me, my sense of self-preservation overcame my stupor, and I rushed into the kitchen. There I grabbed the knife on the table and prepared to defend myself by standing in front of the doorway. I was shaking, and my heart seemed ready to burst out of my chest. I stood like that for some time, but no sound came from the next room. So I took the remote control from the table and turned on the small television set on the refrigerator, and then curtained the window. I wanted more than anything to call someone close to me, but the phone was still on the computer table in that very room, and the thought of going there to get it made me shiver. I spent the rest of the night in the kitchen. I pondered for a long time, going over in my head the various versions of what it could have been out there on the balcony. I couldn't recall any details of the man's appearance, and was it even a man? The only thing that stuck in my memory for many years was that pale frozen face with sunken cheeks and empty glass eyes, and of course, his predatory smile. Again and again, I asked myself the question, what would have happened if I hadn't closed the balcony door? And was that door a meaningful barrier to that creature? When it started to get light, I brewed some coffee. It was only when I heard the sound of engines running outside the window and the sound of footsteps in the stairwell that I decided to pull back the curtain. Outside the window, an ordinary morning was beginning. Cars were passing by, rare passers-by were walking along the sidewalk, and the janitor was removing fallen leaves. And then, taking my knife with me, I cautiously entered the room. There was no one on the balcony. Only the wind was swaying the open window on the other side of the door.